Thank you, Brooks, and hello, everyone. I'll be presenting on some energy burden research I did this summer. So energy burden is defined as the percentage of income spent on home energy bills. The average national energy burden is 3%. However, a report from the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy shows that 1 in 4 of all US households have a high energy burden, meaning they spend more than 6% of their income on energy bills. And 2/3 of this is low-income households. Even further, 2 of every 5 low-income households have a severe energy burden, which means they spend more than 10% of their income on energy costs. The report also shows that the median energy burden for African American households is 43% higher than white households, and the median energy burden for Hispanic households is 20% higher than white non-Hispanic households. In Massachusetts, the median energy burden is 3.1%. However, the median low-income energy burden is 10.1%. This map shows the energy burden across Massachusetts. Here we can see the energy burden for moderate income residents. And here we can see the energy burden for low-income residents. You can see that it's severe, greater than 10% across much of the state, and in certain places it's as high as 31%. There are many reasons for this, and the first is that many low-income residents are renters, which means they have less choice over where they live and often reside in older, less energy efficient buildings, and landlords are less incentivized to pay for energy upgrades. This means they must spend more to keep their homes cool. Additionally, low-income residents are also heavily targeted by third-party suppliers, and they can become trapped in contracts where they pay up to 50% more for their energy than they should. This is important because our climate is getting warmer, which means energy burden is a growing problem. From 1971 to 2000, Massachusetts had on average 4 days above 90 degrees Fahrenheit each year. In 2020, there were 14 days over 90 degrees, and by 2030, that's predicted to more than double. Without access to air conditioning, households are more exposed to the dangers of extreme heat, which include heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Access to energy is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. However, high energy burdens strain bills and can put low-income households at a higher risk of utility shutoff. Households with a higher energy burden may avoid using air conditioning on the hottest days, for example, because of the cost, leading to unsafe exposure to extreme heat. The Department of Energy's low-income energy affordability data tool was a really amazing resource that I used for my research over the summer. It can be found on their website. Using this, you can explore the energy burden across the United States and not only compare between different energy levels, but also between housing tenure, heating fuel type, and building age. Here are the results from my research. And the major takeaway is that income seems to be the highest contributing factor to an increased energy burden. Across much of Massachusetts, low-income residents have severe energy burdens. Older homes consume more energy than newer buildings and are often less energy efficient, which can drive up energy costs. We can see that home age has a slight effect on energy burden, as homes built before 1960 have a higher energy burden than homes built from 1960 to 2000 or homes built after 2000. These maps show energy burden as it relates to heating fuel source. We can see that homes heated with propane have a slightly higher energy burden than homes fueled with natural gas. However, it is harder to see a statewide trend on how fuel affects energy burden. Renter-occupied households do tend to have a higher energy burden than owner-occupied units, and this is for a combination of reasons. Renters typically have a lower income, they live in older homes, and they typically have less control over the utilities and heating fuel types in their spaces. Renters also have less ability to install something that is more energy efficient or cheaper, and they're less incentivized to do this because they might move out before experiencing the full benefits of the upgrades. We heard a little bit about redlining earlier in Catherine and Jamal's presentation, and there are some interesting similarities between the redlining maps and the maps of energy burden in low-income communities. This is a map of energy burden for low-income residents in Quincy. We can see that the highest energy burden is on the tip of the city over here. And when we look at redlining maps, this was the neighborhood marked as hazardous. The same thing happens in Revere. We can see that the highest energy burden for low-income residents correlates to the hazardous neighborhoods from the redlining maps. The same neighborhoods that were redlined in the 1940s are still struggling to pay their energy bills today. And the long history of discriminatory housing policies and racial segregation is part of the reason why low-income families are more likely to live in older, energy-efficient homes that saddle them with higher energy bills. This is important because severe energy burdens not only leave some families struggling to pay their utility bills, but they also force families to choose between paying their utilities and spending money on other essentials. During the COVID-19 pandemic, moratoriums on utility shutoffs were instituted in many states, which ensured that utilities would not be cut off for families in need, but left utility customers in great amounts of debt. Across the United States, the total amount of residential utility debt increased from 194 million to 351 million, an 80% increase in just 1 year. The low-income utility debt increased less, only about 25%, and this is because low-income utility customers already had more debt coming into the pandemic. It's important to think about energy costs when thinking about clean energy in low and moderate income households. Looking for ways to reduce energy burden and targeting and prioritizing low-income communities can help reduce high energy burdens, make energy bills more affordable, and even vastly improve worsening health disparities for low-income residents. Prioritizing equity can help ensure that clean energy work is accessible and affordable for everyone. Thank you.